my fellow citizens, my siblings, Burkina Faso's esteemed visitors and friends of Africa, I'm here today to. You should refrain from discussing military triumphs or political successes, but to share a meeting with you that has weighed heavy on my heart ever since it happened. It is a tale of faith, truth, and regarding the value of open communication between men that come from vast, different worlds. It tells a tale about what transpired when I met the former Donald Trump, the president, visited Dubai and how an Islamic discussion brought one among the world's most powerful men to weeping. I'll start by saying this. I didn't look for this encounter. I'm a straightforward Burkina Faso soldier, a servant of my individuals, and I'm not interested in the glittering international conference elite. But occasionally, fate puts you in when it's necessary to express the truth to authority, where remaining silent would be a betrayal of all your convictions. One of those times was this one. 3 months ago, a meeting was held at an international security conference in Dubai. I was there on behalf of Burkina Faso's hobbies, talking about issues of sovereignty and self-determination with other leaders in Africa. Donald Trump was there as an individual. However, everyone understands that former American presidents are never really private citizens. They bear the burden of their wherever they go, and they draw in, like the desert heat. It draws attention, the warmth. I didn't intend to interact with. Alongside him, what would we have to discuss? He stands for a framework that has took advantage of Africa for generations. Additionally, I symbolize a generation that is unwilling to no longer tolerate that exploitation. However, perhaps it was Allah's will or fate that brought. We gathered in a tiny waiting area, following a major session. There were maybe 15 other folks there. Business people, diplomats, and certain European leaders as well as a few Gulf states representatives. Everyone was involved in the customary polite banter, the pointless conversations that occupy the corridors of authority. Trump came up to me, straight. I'll give him credit for this. He didn't send a go-between or await a formal presentation. He approached me, held out his hand, and stated, "I've heard a lot, Captain Traore, regarding you. They claim that you're making West African problem." He grinned when he did say it. However, there was a problem with his eyes. He was curious about how I might answer. I gave him a solid handshake and said, "Mr. President, I'm not going to make issues. I'm changing things. There's a distinction." He chuckled at that. "I like you," he remarked, laughing genuinely. "You already say everything you want to say." Then he asked me something that would alter the duration of our discussion. "Tell me, what motivates a young man like you, Captain? You to take such chances? What do you have such strong convictions that you would risk everything?" I could have provided him with a diplomatic solution, a political reply that would have put a stop to the courteous dialogue, yet something in his candor required an equally straightforward answer. Thus I informed him of the truth. "Mr. President," I continued, "I am motivated by my love and faith in Allah for my people, and according to what I understand, Islam instructs us to oppose tyranny and to advocate for justice." Even when one was by themselves, the room went quiet. The anxiety was palpable. Instantly, a number of folks moved, discomfort, and I observed some of the Western ambassadors look at each other. They don't talk freely in their environment. Regarding Islam in these contexts, you maintain your religion is secret, concealed, as though it were something to feel guilty about. But I'm not embarrassed by my religious beliefs, the cornerstone of who I am and all I do. Trump gave me a look that his interest was sincere. "Islam? That is a complex topic. Many people in my nation are strong views toward Islam." I nodded and, "Yes, and the majority of those viewpoints are founded on fear and ignorance rather than knowledge and comprehension." Once more, the people were tense because they weren't used to an individual addressing Donald Trump with such candor. However, this is what shocked me. Rather than becoming offended, he seems interested. "All right, teach me. What am I missing regarding Islam?" Therefore, right there in beautiful Dubai welcome area with some among the most powerful individuals in the world. Immediately, I started talking about my beliefs. I informed him that Islam's central is about serving God and submitting to Him, to people. I clarified that the term Islam is a religion that promotes peace by obedience to Allah's will, and that a genuine Muslim is someone who promotes harmony in the environment in which they live. I discussed the 5 foundational elements of our faith: statement of faith, prayer, almsgiving, pilgrimage, fasting, and how each of these procedures are intended to establish a fair, kind, and spiritually conscious individual, and I could see him paying close attention, and others in the room had halted their discussions to hear what I had to say. I went on. I informed him about Muhammad, the Prophet, may peace be with him, and he was an orphan who turned into a businessman, a man who knew hardship and poverty before he obtained insight. I described how the prophet's initial years following getting revelations outside of combat or conquest while discreetly instructing about justice, mercy, and God's unity. I explained how the earliest Muslims were slain, tormented, and persecuted for their opinions and their reaction, not with force but rather with endurance and steadfastness. Next I talked about what everyone was thinking about it. I said, Mr. You and many others in the West, President, view Islam from a terrorist perspective and radicalism. The violence is visible, perpetrated by organizations claiming to adhere to Islam, and you come to the conclusion that Islam is aggressive. However, this is similar to viewing the burning crosses by the Ku Klux Klan and ending that racial hatred is taught in Christianity. It resembles witnessing abuse by dishonest priests, kids, and coming to the conclusion that Jesus trained in pedophilia. People's behavior. Those who misrepresent a religion don't define that faith. I noticed a number of individuals nodding, including a portion of the Gulf representatives. Trump remained with his arms folded, listening, and his expression that is both open and serious. So I went deeper. I explained the Quran to him, passages that defend the right to practice one's religion, that affirm that there is no obligation in faith. I cited the passage that reads, anyone who murders an innocent person is like they've wiped out humanity, and it seems as though anyone saves a life, they've saved humanity as a whole. I outlined how the word jihad, which has been so misappreciated and misinterpreted, mostly refers to the internal conflict against the desires and ego of oneself, and that even in the context of physical. Consequently, it is subject to stringent regulations, which forbid the murder of people, the devastation of animals and crops, as well as the destruction of locations of worship. Then I mentioned something more intimate. I shared my own with him, adventure with Islam, discussing how faith has influenced how I view leadership and fairness. I clarified that when I noticed Burkina Faso's French military installations, when I witnessed the depletion of our resources as our people go hungry, when I observe puppet regimes that serve foreign interests rather than those of their own people, my religious beliefs require me to behave not with senseless violence or blind hatred, but with tactical opposition based on a dedication to the rule of law. I learned from President Islam that before God, all humans are created equal. A country is entitled to rule. Another, that resources and wealth are trust in Allah, which needs to be equitably dispersed. When I work to free from foreign rule, I am Burkina Faso, not being an extremist or radical. I'm a Muslim, and I abide by the illustration of the Prophet who opposed the influential Meccan elites who took advantage of the weak and impoverished. I observed that something was shifting in the way Trump looked. His arms had uncrossed, and he stood quite still, totally preoccupied with what I was saying. I went on, but I changed the attention to him. You know, Mr. You and I, President, are not so distinct. You spoke your way to power against the ruling class by pledging to serve the forgotten individual, by contesting a place that had become cozy and dishonest. You know what it is. Methods to face resistance from strong forces who profit from the current situation. The distinction is that you question the creation from within the system, while I contest it externally. However, the same impulse is present, the urge to assist those who have been left behind and deceived by those claiming to be in charge. I noticed a spark in his eyes, perhaps acknowledgement or recognition. Then I made a statement, something I hadn't intended to say. That was from the bottom of my heart. I stated, however, Mr. President, what's important distinction between us? When you contested the status quo, you did to reassign authority within your own country. When I question the institution, I'm battling for the survival and honor of my whole. Africa has experienced rapes, and for 500 years, our people have been pillaged, been colonized, exploited, enslaved, and killed. Our assets have constructed the prosperity of America and Europe while we stay impoverished, and when we eventually political autonomy, that, with debt, independence is undermined through coups in the military, by economic conflict. I noticed tears starting to well up in his eyes, but I was powerless to stop. I was bursting with words now, not with rage, but in a manner that fervent clarity. Islam, I said, shows me that this is prohibited and unethical. I learned from it that I'll be in front of Allah on the judgment day and take responsibility for my activities. If I don't say anything while my individuals suffer, if I work with them, they mistreat us. If I exchange the honor of Burkina Faso for individual convenience, and how shall I answer to the Lord of Wealth? The world's, how can I clarify that despite knowing the facts, convenience was chosen above justice? The tears were streaming down, now openly from Trump's view, and several individuals in the room looked startled. One of his assistants advanced, as though to step in. Trump waved him away. His eyes were fixed on mine with it. I will always remember that expression. A blend of suffering, acknowledgement, and something else I can't really put my finger on. Maybe it was the understanding of common humanity, the knowledge that underneath all of our disparities in authority and politics and status, we are all simply men attempting to interpret our obligation. I lowered my voice. Mr. President, I do not. I then said, I don't hate America, but I do detest you. Opponents are not Westerners or American individuals, but the exploitative systems that favor a select few at the price of many. I am not taught to hate by Islam, Jews, Christians, or individuals of any belief or lack thereof. It teaches me to acknowledge injustice wherever it occurs, and to do whatever I can to promote justice. If you see me as your enemy because of that, among those who gain from the existing system, then whatever, however, I don't have to despise you and resist your represent. After that, I discussed with him compassion about the Islamic notion of Rahmah, the benevolence of God that includes everything. I explained to him that Allah is said to as the most merciful Al-Rahman and the most sympathetic Arim, and that these are the initial characteristics we mention each time we call upon the name of God. I clarified that Islam instructs us to Allah is more merciful than he is angry, that repentance's door is always open, that there is no sin too big to be pardoned if one truly asks, makes amends and extends forgiveness. I said, Mr. President, you are a strong guy. However, you won't live forever. Not one of we shall. The countries and empires we serve will pass into history like all the earlier empires, but our souls are everlasting, and we shall all confront our Maker. The question is not whether we will be assessed, but what will be assessed will be, did we work for the powerful or the helpless? Did we take from the weak to benefit the powerful, or did we, to bring about justice, should we redistribute wealth? Did we speak up in support of those who had no voice, or did we stay quiet to protect our personal comfort? Trump was crying in public now. He didn't express that he was crying, yet tears were pouring down his cheeks, and he didn't try to conceal them. Everybody there was startled stillness in the room. This individual was renowned for being rough, his arrogance, his refusal to display frailty, and he was sobbing before strangers, competitors, and diplomats. I felt no victory at that time, just a strong human connection. I moved toward him and spoke softly, in order for him alone to hear. Mr. President, Allah is a lover of the heartbroken. He is near people who, self-deprecating. These tears are not vulnerability. They are the start of wisdom. If what I said has affected a genuine feeling in your heart, then maybe there is hope for everyone. Looked at me and said, his voice, Captain Traore, I have met trembling monarchs, presidents, and the world's most powerful individuals, but nobody has ever addressed me in such a manner as you did. I've never felt anything from someone. He paused, finding it difficult to speak. No one has ever given me such a clear feeling that I may need to explain my decisions. I responded, each of us must take responsibility for our Mr. President options are what it. This is what it means to be human, to possess a soul, as taught by Islam. Accountability doesn't start after death, but in each and every life moment. There are two options, justice and unfairness, between kindness and brutality, between the truth and the lie. Always responsible. What transpired next shocked everyone present. Trump contacted me, among others, and took me in their arms. It wasn't a political gesture or a chance for a picture. It was one human being's hug, recognizing something significant in another human being. We stood there for a second, this millionaire American and this African soldier joined by. Anything more profound than power or politics, he said loudly as he retreated, enough to be heard by everybody. I want you to need everyone to be aware that this young man has provided me with something to ponder, truly consider. We might not agree on many things, but his words are sincere conviction, and that is worthy of admiration. He turned to face me after that, saying, Captain, I may not be able to change the full system, but you've provided me with a think about it. I appreciate your candor. This is what I tell you, my siblings. Narrative not to exalt myself or assert some significant triumph. I tell you this narrative since it makes a revelation crucial on the strength of faith, truth, when we communicate with sincere belief, when we permit our trust to direct our speech and behavior, we can touch people's hearts, even those who appear to hostile to us the most. This does not imply they'll instantly alter their stances or policy. Trump is still Trump and America is still America. However, we briefly made contact as fellow humans, and he faced something that maybe he possessed, been staying away from. This is what Islam provides us. It provides a structure for recognizing justice that goes beyond national boundaries and political beliefs. It provides us with the bravery to speak truth to power because we know that supreme authority is exclusive to Allah. Is merciful to us, even for our adversaries, since we recognize that we are all imperfect and we're all having difficulty. All of us require divine direction and pardon. However, my brothers, and let me clarify things, sisters, otherwise, that human connection doesn't alter the basic reality we encounter. Africa continues to be abused. Burkina Faso continues to face tremendous difficulties. The systems of imperialism and global capitalism are still served to transfer wealth from the rich to the needy, the south to the northward. Between Africa and Europe and America, our meeting didn't resolve such issues, and it would be foolish to believe it did what it did, but it reminds me of why we fight. Avoid fighting because we despise our adversaries. We battle because we cherish our individuals. We don't oppose because we wish to. We oppose because we desire retribution, fairness. Islam instructs us that the pursuit of justice is not merely a political one or financial. It is spiritual, about bringing back the honor that Allah given to every individual, the dignity. It has been depleted over generations of persecution. During my conversation with Trump, I wasn't attempting to convert to Islam. I was attempting to explain things to him. If we are not mindless in our opposition or illogical, it has strong moral conviction, originating from a 14-year-old religious tradition, centuries old, which has resulted in some of the most advanced societies, academics, and historical leaders. The Islamic of the Sahel, West African Islam, isn't the warped version of shows up on television in the West. It is a living custom that places a focus on community, learning, acceptance, and justice. For this reason, we cannot permit our belief to be characterized by our adversaries or by the radicals claiming to speak in our name. We need to recover its actual meaning of Islam, a faith that promotes peace via power, through justice, through kindness, of defiance by morality. This is the Islam that motivated Malcolm X to change from a minor offender to a worldwide voice for rights of human beings. This is Islam that directed the recapture of Jerusalem by Salah ad-Din, and then show his vanquished adversaries, so generous that even Europeans. His nobility was lauded by historians. Islam, which established universities in Timbuktu during the dark period in Europe, long time. My meeting with Donald Trump taught me a vital lesson, that even the most influential individuals are still human, yet still able to be influenced by truth, but still subject to some kind of accountability, superior than them. But it also confirmed for me what I already knew: cannot wait for the development of the powerful conscience before taking action. We need to develop our own authority, our own establishments, our own political and economic system, organization. We need to take this action not in mimicry of the West, but in accordance with our own principles, customs, and personal conception of justice. This is reasons for my dedication to the undertaking of African sovereignty and Burkina Faso oneness, which is the reason we're trying to increase military prowess without relying on other forces. The reason we are reorganizing our economy to benefit our individuals as opposed to huge corporation companies. The rationale behind our revival. African history and culture will be restored. Pride and direction to our youth. This is jihad in its purest term. The battle to create a fair society in the face of all challenges and opposition. And to put it plainly, this conflict is not against Judaism, Christianity, or any other faith. A large number of my closest friends and our coworkers are Christians, jointly, as we have a shared commitment to justice notwithstanding our differences. Religious custom. What binds us together is greater than our differences. We all feel that the Africans own Africa, that our assets ought to help our adults, that our kids should have a future of opportunity and respect, is the message I would like to convey to each and every African youth. A young Muslim who feels disoriented, perplexed, or furious. The issue is not with your beliefs. Your faith is correctly grasped, and The answer is practice, which provides you with purpose. It provides you with values, provides the fortitude to withstand them. Despite the huge odds, it also provides you with humility and mercy. It provides you with the insight to understand that Allah alone is the rightful owner of final triumph, and that our only responsibility is to do our best and let Him decide the outcome. After what seemed like an age, he got to his feet. Everyone thought he would leave. Maybe he was angry, but he didn't. Approached me, and in front of, he took me in his arms and held me for everyone. After a long pause, he whispered in, "Thank you," I said in my ear. I had to hear. Following what seemed like a lifetime, he got to his feet, as everyone had anticipated. Leave, maybe out of rage, but he did not. He approached me and stood in front of all people. He held me and embraced me. After a prolonged pause, he muttered, "Thank you," I said in my ear. I had to hear that. I share my brothers and sisters. This story is not meant to exalt myself or to imply that I possess unique, persuasive abilities. I share it because it gives us important lesson, the strength of genuine testimony, the strength of speaking the truth with bravery and empathy, the strength of not doing. Acknowledge the false narratives that are used to separate us. That particular instance in Dubai reminded me that when we live out our faith with honesty and knowledge, has the ability to reach even the toughest hearts. I was reminded that our accountability as Africans, Muslims, as people, is not to withdraw into resentment or defensiveness, but to stand boldly in our truth and to share with the world, no matter how it is obtained. The issue is not Islam confronting the modern world. The issue is unfairness. Inequality is the issue. The issue lies in the misuse of the few by many. Systems are the issue of power that favor profit over humanity, that prefer dominance than collaboration. People who prioritize extraction over reciprocity. Additionally, Islam, authentic Islam, faces difficulty. Each of these systems. For this reason it is fearful. It is warped as a result. For this reason, vast resources are devoted to ensuring that the world sees just its caricature rather than its actuality. But we can't keep quiet. Our narrative must be told. We have to live our faith in a way that makes the truth indisputable. We have to create civilizations that represent the fairness of Islamic principles, dignity, fairness, and compassion. We have to be the proof that disproves the falsehoods mentioned us. Ever since that encounter in President Trump, Dubai, and I have kept the conversation civil. Yes, I do oppose a number of his initiatives, and I will never be afraid to offer criticism, acts that are detrimental to Muslims or Africa, anywhere on the planet. However, I have discovered that even those who appear to be the most are still human beings in contrast to us, still able to be influenced by the truth, still able to adapt when faced with genuine testimonies. My parting remarks, these are given to you today. Never, don't undervalue the influence of your faith. Lived a genuine life. Never underestimate your voice's strength increased with bravery. Never undervalue the power of your honor upheld in spite of all tries to take it away from you. These are the weapons that are unbeatable by military power, which cannot be bought with financial might. That isn't possible. Propaganda silenced them. Our name is Burkina Faso. Africa is who we are. We're Muslims. We are people standing erect on the truth. Furthermore, no power on the planet can beat a people who are aware of their identity and who refuse to be anything less. May Allah let us, fortify us, and provide us the wisdom to be instruments of peace, fairness, and change in the world.